You'll never learn to stop causing trouble for us, will you? My sister furrowed her brows and poked her head into my room, using that same condescending tone she always had as she threw the words at me. Part 1. I was on the floor, picking up scattered papers. They were my wedding planning documents, originally stacked neatly in the corner of the desk, until 2 minutes ago, when my sister had pushed the door open and, with a swipe of her elbow, knocked them all to the ground. Just because she saw the words "process of walking down the aisle" written on one sheet. I looked up and saw her standing at the doorway, one foot resting on one of my process drafts. She was wearing pale pink loungewear, her feet plump and pressed to the sides by her slippers. She always loved this color, claiming it made her skin look fairer. Her hair had just been permed last night, puffed up in a way that reminded me of a student trying a curling iron for the first time. She crossed her arms and stared at me, as if I owed her something. I took a deep breath and continued picking up the papers. "I'm talking to you," she raised her voice. "That wedding venue you booked, you said it could let the bridesmaids and groomsmen do a walk, right? Why didn't you ask for my opinion first?" I paused, looked up. "Didn't you promise not to be involved in the process? You said you were just coming to eat." "That was just talk," she rolled her eyes. "I've changed my mind. I'm walking in." "Your friend is a bridesmaid? She can give me her spot." I stared at the floor, where I had managed to pile the papers into a small mound. I didn't say anything, knowing that if I argued, she'd run to tell our parents, and they would always side with her. Seeing my silence, she lifted her chin like a victor. "I'm warning you in advance, don't make me look bad on the wedding day. You know I hate being ignored." She said that and slammed the door. A few papers scattered again, and I bent down to continue picking them up. From the living room came the voices of my parents. The TV was on, a local afternoon news channel, volume turned high. My dad always said it made things easier to hear. My mom sat at the dining table peeling an apple with her decade-old paring knife, its blade chipped and uneven. Not my sister shouted, "Mom, I'm telling you, I want to walk down the aisle." She just gave me that face again. "Oh, your sister is just like that, so immature," my mom said lightly. Then I heard the phrase from the living room that never changed, "You too, she's always been the easier one to manage." I forced a smile. Over 20 years, that phrase had become a button. Press it, and it automatically played. This had always been our family's pattern. She demands, I comply. She pouts, I take the blame. She throws a fit, I get scolded. I gathered the papers, stood up, and headed to the kitchen for a glass of water. Passing the living room, my dad glanced at me but kept watching the TV, his tone indifferent. "Just do what your sister says, don't give us any trouble." In that instant, I felt like I was back in childhood. Every time accused, every time scolded, every time expected to yield. The air smelled of warm electronics from the TV, and the faint sound of apple peels hitting the cutting board was clear and distinct. I stood there holding an empty glass, my fingertips cold. I realized suddenly, they never saw me as the bride-to-be. They only saw someone who would always yield to my sister, and I was no longer that child who tolerated everything. Part 2. Leaving home, earning a scholarship for college, finding a job, moving out. These experiences allowed me to build my own life. Yet I still remembered the details from the past, the ones that taught me from a young age. In this house, I was second class. 1. A childhood not believed. In 3rd grade, my sister tore up my painting for a school competition. I remember clearly, she had failed at a painting she wanted to do, was in a bad mood, and I simply walked past her. She grabbed my painting and ripped it in half. I cried and went to tell our parents. The first thing they said was, "Did you provoke her?" When she pretended to cry, saying, "I stepped on it by accident," they scolded me. "Why did you leave your painting on the floor? How careless can you be? Your sister apologized, you can't just be gracious?" But my painting had been on the wall. No one ever asked that. That moment, all I knew was the injustice. I didn't yet understand favoritism. Later, I realized, it wasn't that I didn't understand. It was that they were too lazy to be fair. 2. Isolation and humiliation during adolescence. By middle school, she had no friends. While I was popular, she became jealous. She told our parents that my friends were mature beyond their age, bad influences. Leading boys on. My parents forbade me from going out. I didn't understand at the time. I just wondered why I was trapped at home while she could come and go freely. Once, my aunt asked, "Why haven't I seen you going out lately?" I honestly replied, "Because my parents said I can't have friends. If my sister had none, it would look pitiful if I had." The next day, my parents flew into a rage, saying I was lying and immature, and locked me inside for a month. I'll never forget that night. I curled up in bed, listening to my sister laughing loudly next door while our parents praised how well behaved she was. For the first time, I thought, I must leave this place. 3. First retaliation. Turning academics into a weapon. My parents never paid attention to my grades. They only celebrated when my sister got a B as if she had won a prize. But I kept working in secret, using the family's limited resources as tools for escape. Perhaps because of those lonely years, I became calm and patient, able to sit quietly and perfect one task at a time. In senior year, I researched, wrote applications, and filled out scholarship forms alone. My parents told me, "You don't need to think about college, we don't have money." I didn't argue, just said, "Okay, I understand." When I received the scholarship, I posted on social media, tagging my parents, "Thank you for your support." I did it. I wasn't showing off. I knew that if I didn't announce it publicly, they would try to stop me. I saw my sister's face that day, silent the whole time. My parents kept telling me not to go, saying, "Your sister is struggling there, you wouldn't make it." For the first time, I firmly replied, "I'm leaving." In that moment, I saw a flicker of fear. They were afraid of losing someone who would always yield, a loss in their eyes. For college years, I learned not to look back. By my 4th year, I was frugal, counting my earnings from part-time jobs 3 times each night. Life wasn't extravagant, but it was free. I made friends, and for the first time, someone truly had my back. For the first time, someone asked, "Why never get angry at your parents?" I realized then, being angry is not a sin. I dated, and for the first time understood what a healthy relationship looked like. Meanwhile, my sister still sulked at home, changing jobs, complaining about the world. My parents continued to clean up after her, became increasingly certain of one thing: I had grown independent, yet they still saw me as the child they could control. 5. Meeting my husband. First time someone stood up for me. My husband is the type who, if someone insults me, can respond threefold with logic. The first time he met my parents, they were initially polite. Within 10 minutes, my sister began picking on him. "You dress too casually, you speak too bluntly, you don't seem refined." Enough. He glanced at her calmly. "I'm not here for an interview." I saw my sister flush red with embarrassment and fury. My parents jumped in to defuse the situation. "Your sister is just trying to give good advice." He added, "If that's good advice, then your standards for her and for your daughter are wildly different, aren't they?" It was the first time I felt protected at home. That moment, I knew, if I was going to fight back, I wasn't alone. Setting up the real revenge as the wedding approached, I could sense my sister's growing unease. She wasn't concerned about walking down the aisle, she feared that for the first time in my life, I would receive attention. She was used to being the center, knowing from childhood that our parents would always favor her. Now, she couldn't tolerate someone putting me in the front row, but this time, I wouldn't yield. I had financial and emotional independence, and a partner ready to stand with me. My sister, my parents, all those old humiliations, favoritism, and control, were gradually being exposed through the wedding preparations. Began to understand revenge isn't about arguing or petty retaliation. It's about making them feel the fear of losing control, losing superiority, losing me as the compliant one. I was ready. The next step would be something they would never anticipate. We designed a setup to make her expose herself willingly. She would never expect that my first true act of retaliation in life would happen in the public setting she valued most. And her reaction would be exactly what she deserved.